Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sumit, and today I'm going to take up a Salesforce Flow case study. In this video, we will be diving deep into the power of Salesforce flows and how they can transform the business process through automation. Whether you are a Salesforce admin, developer, or just exploring the automation tools, understanding how flows work can help you streamline operations, save time, and enhance productivity. So, today I will be going to walk you through a real life case study where a company or an organization use Salesforce flows to automate their currency conversions. And we will be going to break down this problem, solutions, and incredible results achieved using Salesforce Powerful Flow Builder. So, if you are ready to see the impact of Salesforce flows in action, stick around as we explore this exciting case study. And before we begin, if you are new to this channel, if you are new to my channel, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do subscribe my channel. And also don't forget to press the bell icon. So let me share the business requirement to you. So my business requirement is, as all of you know, that in an organization, while we configure the company settings, so within company information, within company settings, there is an option called multiple currencies. So we can activate multiple currencies. Like in this org, I have activated multiple currencies. And once we activate multiple currencies, then we can configure currency conversion rates. We can add currencies and we can set their conversion rates. But usually we need to set these conversion rates manually. We need to manually set these conversion rates. And just imagine that you have to every day on daily basis you need to update the conversion rates for the currencies we have set here. How about if we can automate this now? If we can automate this process, that means by using flows, we will be going to automate this. And on a certain time, on a specific duration, an automation will run and it will auto update the conversion rates. That is the business requirement. That's the use case. So how are we going to do this? What all steps we are going to configure? That we will be going to discuss. So, in order to understand this solution, this final output, what we have done, we have decided to divide the whole use case study into small modules. We'll do step by step implementation. So let's begin. Let me okay before we proceed further. Let me show you. This is what I'm looking for. I would like to set up a flow like this. And when we execute a flow, when we run a flow, it's going to run. Let me debug this flow. Let me show you the final result. When we run this flow, so when we run this flow, we will be going to see the final output, final result. As you can see, we have run this flow and the process completed successfully. So it's started the process, initiated the process, it checked the conversion rates, and once the conversion rates will be there, it will update the conversion rates for the currencies. So how are we going to configure this whole process? We will be going to do step-by-step implementation. So let's proceed. And for this, I will be going to do the implementation in a separate Salesforce org. So before you proceed this, it is recommended that you build this in a sandbox environment if you are working in a real-time environment. So try to implement this in a sandbox environment to avoid the risk of corrupting anything in your existing Salesforce account. In addition, there are a variety of things an admin will know and think about before enabling multiple currencies and advanced currency management. So in this case study, we will be going to see how do we enable multiple currencies, how do we manage the advanced currency management. And by the end of this block, you will be able to create an inbound request using name credentials. You will be going to learn how to call out to an external API using a Salesforce triggered flow, and how to initiate an outbound HTTP GET request, eliminating the need for the code, how to be update the dated conversion rates for multiple currencies. And finally, we will be going to validate the test, the data flow works, and how it's going to work. So let's start with step number one. So our step number one, in order to automate the currency conversions, step number one, we have to activate multiple currencies. So therefore, I just navigate to setup, and in home, I look for company settings, company information. In company information, if the multiple currencies is not yet highlighted, not activated, we need to enable that. We need to activate that. So in this case, the multiple currencies is not, see this multiple currencies is not activated. So I'm going to click on edit, and I'm going to activate the currency settings. So here's an option called activate multiple currencies. But before that, the currency locale, that's a corporate currency. I said the corporate currency is English, US, and activate multiple currencies. And remember one thing, this feature can't be turned off. So those who are new to this, they for them it's important that once we activate multiple currencies, we can't turn this off. So therefore, be very careful with this. Click on save, and it give you a warning also. Okay, so that is step number one. Now we need to add the currencies. So once we activate multiple currencies, either we can click on currency setup, or in quick find, we can look for manage currencies. So let me refresh this. Manage currencies. So I click on manage currencies. This is step number two. We need to add currencies to the active currencies. With this, we can set up from here also. But I click on manage currencies, and right now we got only one currency, that is called USD. So I click on new, and I'm going to add few of the currencies. So currency type as INR, and let's suppose I set the currency conversion rate at 83.03. Save and new. I'll just add GBP, that is British pound. Let's suppose I set the conversion rate as 0.89, something like this. If you want to know more about conversion rate, the actual conversion rates, you can visit a website called z.com, and from here we can just check the current conversion rates. So GBP, and for one USD to GBP, that is 0.76. So we can edit that if it is required. Or I'll just say JPY, that is Japanese yen, and it is 142.69. So I say JPY and 142.69. Two digits, save. So as you can see, we got three currencies, and if we want to edit the currency, if you want to add the edit the conversion rates, we can do that. We can edit from here. But as I mentioned, this is a manual operation, and on daily basis, and as an administrator, we need to navigate back to the conversion website, let's say z.com, check the conversion rates, conversion amount, and update this. But that's a manual operation. I want to auto update this. So therefore, how I'm going to auto update this? So this is what we are going to implement by using flows. Now, step number three, as you can see in manage currency, there's an option called advanced currency manage is not enabled. It allows you to manage the dated exchange rate that map a currency to a specific date range. So I just need to enable that. So I click on enable. That is step number three, and enable. So I simply enable that and click on manage dated exchange rates. So when we click on manage exchange rates, we can see the same currencies and their the current rates. So from this screen, we can view which currency is set as a corporate currency. So this is my corporate currency and which what all currencies we have added with their current conversion rates. So that's step number 3. Now, step number 4, we need to register for a free exchange rate API account. And for this, I'm going to use one free account for conversion one, and that is called app. So there's a website called app.currencyapi.com. So there's a website called Currency API, and I have signed it here. Basically, I logged in into this Currency API. So currencyapi.com. And how do we do this? App.currencyapi.com. And let me log out. This is how this looks like. Currencyapi.com. So I'm going to log in into this. I'm logging into this. Or if you have the credentials, you can use the credentials, or you can use login. I click on login with Google, and I'm going to log in with my Google account. So I logged in successfully by using my Google account. This is a dashboard. This tell you that how many requests we have made till so far, what's the success rates and everything. And also this will, on the left side, you can see a section called API keys. So here's an option to get the API key, because whenever we want to make an API call from external applications to this currency API, we require this API keys. There are other tools also, but I'm going with this tool, which is called currencyapi.com. Here there's an API key. Either we can copy and paste this API key somewhere in a notepad. So let me paste it somewhere in a notepad. I'll go with an online notepad. And let me paste it somewhere in a notepad. So this is currency API key. And what's the key? This is the key. Sorry. Okay, that's the API. That's the API. Now, the next step, that is step number 5, we need to create a named credential. So let's start the actual implementation. Whenever we want to make an API call from Flows or from Salesforce to third-party applications, either we use to create a remote site settings or we create named credentials. To know more about remote site settings and name credentials, please go through my previous videos where I've explained about the both the functionalities, both the terminologies. I will share the link in the description below. You can go through that. That will a part of an Salesforce integration, which I have already covered in my previous sessions. So I'm going to create a named credential. And I click on new legacy. And let's say I'll label this as AI Tech Currency API. That's my name credential. Now here we have to pass the URL. So the URL is https api.currency.com. And to know more about this, we can open this playground. And here we have this https api dot. I'll copy this request, paste it. So we will be looking for this https api.currencyapi.com. So this I'm going to pass a URL as a URL. That's all we have to do, and simply click on save. So this is our named credential. Now we start actual implementation, and that is called, we will be going to start create a flow. So let's have a look how to create a flow to update your dated exchange rates. So basically, with the help of using flows, we will be going to update the dated exchange rates. Let's see how. So let me start a flow builder. Let me open a flow builder here. So I click on flows, and I'm going to open a flow builder. So click on new flow. It will open a flow builder for us. In this flow builder, I will be using I'm going to create a schedule triggered flow. So I click on start from scratch. Next, I want to schedule that. Schedule in terms of I want to schedule it on daily basis. So I click on schedule triggered flow, create this. I select that date. I want to start it from today onwards. Timing will be, let's say, 4 a.m. and daily. Let me save this flow and I just write flow to automate currency conversion. Click on save. So that's the flow. That is step number 6. Now, step number 7, we need to create a wait for condition element. So I click on this one and here I'm going to create wait for condition and I'll just write here pause and the condition is pause and I set label as I want to pause for 0 hours. So resume event 0 hours and when to specify a specific time, we can specify the date time. So as you can see, why are we doing this? Because we would like to await condition that can resume the flow and specific time of platform event message. So I click on wait configuration details and click on specific. So resume event, specific time, specific time. Here we have to specify the base time. So the base time I'm going to set here is flow dot current date time. So from here I select flow current date time. Offset number will be 0 and this will be hours. So it should wait for 0 hours. It's not going to wait. Resume time and event delivery status. We are not going to do anything. Simply close this and save this. And don't forget to save this. But now I want to break this. So therefore, I just switch to free form. And then again, I get back to auto layout. So you can see this get break into 2 parts, 0 and default path. So we are not going to do anything in the default path. We have to wait for 0. We will be going to configure in this one. Now it's time to configure a HTTP get callout action because we would like to make an HTTP callout with the help of name credentials to this playground, to this currency API in order to get the conversion rates. And for this, I just want to get the conversion rates for GBP, INR, and JPI and JPY. And when I make a request, this is how I'm getting the current conversion rates. So I just wanted to add these things, but how we are going to make a call to this? So that we have to configure here. And how do we do this? So I click on plus, click on action, and here I'm going to configure HTTP callout. So I click on HTTP callout. So label currency API, let's say currency API call. Name credential, the name credentials we configure AI Tech currency API. That's the URL. Next, here we have to set the label, and again I set the label as AI Tech 1 currency API. The method will be get method. Now here we have to set the complete URL path, and the complete URL path is v3 slash latest. So I copy this path and paste here. And now we need to add the query parameters. As you can see in this query, we are passing 2 parameters, API key and the currencies. API keys and the base currencies. So I'll just pass add key. First, I said as base underscore currency. Data type as string. required, add key, API key, string, and required. So these are the two parameters we are going to pass along with this URL along within as a query, as a part of a query. Click on next. Here we have to use a sample response. So we need to add a sample JSON response. So I click on use sample JSON response, click next, and we can add a description if we want. So let's suppose our description as sample JSON, and here I need to paste the sample JSON response. So here's the sample JSON response. I copy this response and paste it here and click on review. When I click on review, it will automate the data structure, and this data structure will help us to map the values. This is important, so don't miss this step. Click on save. And we need to set the label. So I just write here currency API call out. Currency API call out. Here we have to pass the API key. So what's my API key? So I can go to my API key, and this is my API key. I copy this API key and paste my API key here. And the base value, so I just pass my base value as USD. That's my base value. So my base value is USD. Base currency is my USD. Save this and finally close this. So this is our step number 8. So we have successfully configured a HTTP GET callout connection. So at this stage, we can create a constant variable to store the API keys and the variables to the values. So that is possible. So we can create the variables and we can pass the values to those API keys, but I'm directly passing the API key here. Now we need to check for a successful currency API key call out response. So we need to check for the successful currency. So therefore, I'm going to check. So we have successfully configured the currency API call out. And now in this currency API call out, after this currency API call out, we will be going to check for the call out response. What's the response? So therefore, I'm going to add a decision block and label this as check call out response. Basically, this is the response we received from the currency API. If the API key response is success, then we'll proceed further. Otherwise, we'll stop it there. And before we begin with this, yeah, okay, fine. So check API response, check call out response. So check call out response. So I'm going to add two response here. First is successful call out. So I say successful call out. And the second is unsuccessful call out. Unsuccessful call out. That means the call out is failed. So on successful call out, what's the condition? Here we have to add a condition on successful call out. So on successful call out, the condition is on successful call out, the condition is if the response code equals to 200. So when we make an API call out, so let's check it out. Click and what is the response for this currency API call out? So output from currency API call out, if the response code equals to 200. That means it is success. Otherwise it would be considered as failed. So unsuccessful means it is failed. So save this and close. Let me check it one more time. Fine. So this is step. Now again, I'm going to click on free form and say auto layout so that it will get break here. Like successful call out and unsuccessful call out. Now, once we have this successful call out and unsuccessful call out, we will be going to on successful call out, we will be going to get the active currencies. So I just click here and say records, get records, and I'm going to label this as fetch active currencies. So fetch active currencies. And the object is currency type. And what's the condition? The field is active equals to global constant is equals to true. And one more condition I'm going to check. It should not be the corporate one. Is corporate equals to global constant false? It should not be a corporate one because corporate currency is already there. So we just wanted to fetch all the active currencies other than the corporate one. Not sorted. I want to fetch all records and save this and close. So this is going to fetch the active currencies for us. This will fetch the active currencies for us. And now we will be going to check. We will be going to put a decision block that if the active currency is found, then what to do. And if the active currency is not found, then what to do. So we will be going to check that. So I'm going to put a decision block here. And I label it as active currency found. If the active currency found, then what to do. If currency found and default outcome currency not found. So if the currency found, how do we make sure, how do we validate if the currency is found? So I just write, how do we check if the currency found? So we have to put a condition here. If so, the decision block here is from the active currencies, we have to check so I just write here active currencies found so here I need to get the active currencies. So I'll just click here and I just say get record currency type from active currency is null set to false. Is null set to false. That means we have active currencies and this one currency not found. And don't forget to save whatever changes you are doing. Don't forget to save this. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Maybe you may miss the functionalities. Now, again, I'm going to freeform this and auto layout it so that we can see the changes. Like as you can see, it break down here active currency found. Check now active currency found. We check the response and yeah, so active currency found. So if everything goes well, this is how this looks like. We start with this and check auto response, check call out response. We fetch active currency found yes or no. So currency found, currency not found. Now we need to add a loop elements to cycle through the active currency. So whatever active currency is found, we have to iterate on a loop. So I click plus and put a loop. So there's a loop. And I'm going to put a loop and I just write here loop through currencies. And the collection variable is currency type from collection variable is currency from fetch get. So basically get the current get active currencies, and we'll be going to iterate on that. We'll put the loop. Now we need to create two record variables to store the currency exchange rate. One will be to store one currency rate at a time, and one will be a collection. So I'm going to create two resources and variables, and I label it as where underscore dated conversion. Let's say where current conversion rate. This is, and the data type will be a record type, and for which object dated conversion rate, make it available both for input and output. This is one. So this is going to store only one record at a time. So you can see it's a record single variable, current conversion rate. One more resource, again variable, data type will be record, and I label this as where underscore current conversion rates. This will be a collection, and the object is dated conversion rates. Make it available both for input and output. So this will act as a collection. That's why you see this added into a collection, and this will add into a record single variable. Now the important part, we need to create a formula to determine the latest rate for the currency ISO code. That's a very, very important part. So how I'm going to do this? I click on new, create a formula, and I'll give the formula name as currency exchange rates. Currency exchange rates, data type as number, decimal place 2. Here we need to write the formula. So what formula are we going to give here? So just to ease your job, what I've done, I have already added a formula. I have already written a formula. So let me copy paste that formula, and I'll explain that formula to you. And we'll also do a testing on that formula. So basically the formula is we have to iterate on the loop through the currency. And if the ISO code is GBP, then we'll need to fetch the value. So how do I write it? I just write if, and we can use a function here. If function is here, if value is false, value is true. So let me remove this value, and we need to fetch the value from pick-well. So is pick-well, and if the value is false, the default is 0.000, something like this. That's for the default one. And here I say picklist field. Which picklist field? So for the current, here for the currency code. So I say we have to put on a loop. So output from current dated, not from here, from a loop. So where's a loop here? Record collection. Yeah, current item from loop, and current item from loop ISO code. Current item from, so loop through currencies dot ISO code, and if the ISO code is if the ISO code is if the ISO code is GBP, then what? If the ISO code is GBP, that's a condition. Is pick well. If it is GBP, then what? We need to fetch, or we need to show, we need to display the conversion rate. So here, output from the currencies 2x data GBP dot value. So currency dot API call GBP dot value. So like this way, we have to add for all of them. So you can see I just added for all the currencies. We have GBP, we have INR, we have JPY, and I set their rates. And if none of them is selected, then it will set the value as zero. So this is the formula we have to define. We need to configure. That's the next step. Now to it's time to add an assignment element to assign the values to a record variable. So I click and use assignment, and I label the assignment as dated conversion rate mapping. First variable, start date. So where conversion rate date dot start date, and this will be equals to the flow current date. So flow current date. Next one, where current rate dot ISO code equals to the loop ISO code. So we have the loop current item from the loop ISO code. ISO code. Current item from loop currencies ISO code. And the last variable is conversion rates. So conversion rate equals to the currency exchange rates. Save this. So this is single one, and finally we'll add it into a collection one. So collection variable is conversion rates. So I click. Again, I use assignment. Label as add to collection. And the variable, what's the variable? So the variable is conversion rates dot add, and what we need to do, conversion rate. So where underscore current conversion rate. So we'll be add one by one. So once this process is done, and once the whole process completed, once this loop completed successfully, now it's time to add. Basically, now it's time to add a record element to add a record to the conversion rate. So I click here and just say add record element, or sorry, create record element, and I label this create record element as add dated conversion rates and multiple, and the collection variable is conversion rates. That's all we have to do, and close this. And finally, we save this job. And now it's time to test this flow. So in order to test this flow, we can simply click on debug, and it is going to make a request to the API call. So this is the whole process. Let's test it now. And I click on debug, and I'm not going to run in a rollback mode because I want to make the changes permanently. So I click on, I uncheck this box and say click on run. And finally, I click on continue the debug run. And when I run, you can see the flow completed successfully. The blue line indicates that the flow completed successfully. You can see on right side, you can see the whole process. Finally, we can go and check the process completed successfully or not. So as you can see, the flow completed successfully, and we will be getting the conversion rates here. So current conversion rate. So basically, it fetched these data successfully and the records updated successfully. So that's how this whole process works. And this, by using a flow, we automate a business process. And by using a flow, we auto update our current currencies conversion rates automatically on daily basis. So we don't have to do a manual process. That saves time, that saves the energy. So that's all in this video. If you like this, don't forget to like this video. You can uh, press the thumb button. Post your comment in comment box. Keep watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.